something with, I don't know, infected tonsils just sound kind of interesting.
Jeez.
But yeah, it was nuts.
Tonsillitis.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you on the, like, we don't have to do it on the podcast, but so I was up. So I was like doing some hand built platters, and the we have the shelf, and then there's like 10 GR forms that are stacked up on top of each other, and I really needed like 5 of them.
It's
so
a high shelf, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so I could smoosh them together, and I was too lazy to get a stool, and so like I reached up to get them. I started pulling them down, and then I misstepped, or like I lost them all, and so all 5 of them fell on me, and they're so sharp in the corners that one of them fell on my nose. Like I didn't have enough time, so I closed my eyes. And then one of them fell on my forehead. I have a bump right here on my forehead. And then one of them fell straight on my nose. And then,
Wow.
And like Rebecca, and then another one hit one of the Zach bowls, which is like the most expensive piece that we make. And then they like fell on the floor, and Rebecca comes around and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And I was like tearing up because, when your nose gets hit, you cry. Like, it's just an automatic, you start tearing. Yeah. But I was fine. It didn't hurt or anything. And then I looked up at her and I was like, "Am I bleeding?" She's like, "No." And then she goes, "Oh, yeah."
Oh, yeah, now you are.
And so, like, we went into the bathroom, and she was all like, "What do you need?" Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, "Go away. I'm fine."
Get out of here, Mom.
I was like, "I'm fine." And so I got, like, a napkin, and then Mackenzie found me a tiny itty-bitty Band-Aid. And it was so funny because everybody that walked up to me was like Sarah came and she's like, "I'm just wondering about this. What happened to your face?"
Can't have that with a mask anymore. Can we go back to masks now, or?
Yeah. I was like, "Oh God." Yeah, it like, see, look.
So it was the actual corner that hit you. It wasn't just
Yeah, it's like it literally sliced me.
Damn.
Yeah, they're fucking sharp.
Does she sand her GR forms? Like,
no.
The parts that curve? No.
I don't think so.
Some people do that to like give them a more
less GR form look. Yeah. I think it's smart. Yeah, and they say, they're like, "Yeah, you can sand them." I mean, I think that's cool.
So are they gonna shift where they are in the future, so you're not lifting them off a high shelf? Or
no, Becca's just gonna get smarter.
Use a stool.
Use a stool. Okay, I'm so tired. I don't know why I'm so tired. Probably because I ate pasta for dinner.
Maybe. That's why. All right. Do you have her? I'm just going to use what I wrote here, unless you actually have what she said. I think I got the gist of it.
Oh. I have what she wrote.
Okay.
Oh, wait, on the shirt. Yeah, do that. That's fine. Read that.
Okay. All right. When do we want to start here? At 30 seconds after? Yeah. They could have a funny intro. I don't know.
I don't.
Hi, Becca.
Hi.
We're live.
Think of a funny intro.
Yeah, we were just talking before we went live. We're like, every time we do this going live, we gotta like do something different. So, what are we gonna do?
We're gonna whisper. Like the VL whisper.
Yes.
Okay, we are doing a short episode today. But we're gonna quickly say we officially have a Patreon. So if you want to support us, you're more than welcome to. We will take your money. If you don't want to support us, that's fine too. But it is www.patreon.com/wheeltalkpodcast, and we will put it on a link tree on our
Instagram account.
Instagram, and also in the notes, in the show notes. So,
yep, look out for that. We are happy to be finally doing that. I know we were kind of playing around with like sponsor ideas and how we wanted to do the Patreon, and finally doing it. So
we've taken the socialist approach.
you keep saying that. I don't exactly know, but I mean,
we
what do you mean by that?
basically you can donate either $3, $5, $10, or $25, and you get exactly the same thing for all of the money. You just decide how much you like us, and you can. But yeah,
Are
it's
we
like
going
this.
to
It's
judge
like
them based on how much they give us?
no, we would never. We would never judge.
I'm just appreciative of anybody that's willing to give us money. I mean,
Yeah, exactly. And like you don't have to. Times are tough. Like we're still in COVID.
yeah, I mean, you're still gonna get the podcast for free, so
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
not gonna
exactly.
change.
We just figured I had to convince Ryan of this, but I was like, our podcast is of value to people.
We have dollars worth of value that people have made money off of our knowledge and talking, or just
Right.
people we've interviewed that have great
Yeah.
knowledge. That
So
have valuable
as of right now, the Patreon doesn't have anything inside of it, but we will eventually be putting in, hopefully sooner rather than later. We've been taping all the episodes with videos so that you can see the videos of us talking, and our bad hairdos, our terrible hats. I'm kidding, you have great hats.
great fucking hats, Becca.
I know, I actually really
Do you ever
do.
wear hats? I don't know that I've ever seen you wear a hat.
Very rarely. If I wear a hat, it's with pigtail braids.
Like fake hair on the hat?
No. Like I'll put God fucking damn it. But I will put my hair in braids and then put a hat on. But I wear glasses that are taller, so the hats don't usually work.
Oh, I gotcha.
Or I'll wear it backwards.
Yeah, I was just saying, just gotta wear it backwards. Actually, I have seen a picture of you in a hat that's backwards, I think.
And I looked like a lesbian.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that, absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I just think of Seinfeld.
I would be a cute lesbian.
Anyways, support us on Patreon. Becca criticizing my hats.
Okay, cool. So we're doing a short episode, so we're gonna read our question. Ryan's gonna read it for us.
Yes. So this one came from Lindy Garner. I said Lindy Garner Ceramics. And her question or statement was, I don't reclaim. Convince me I should. I feel like my time is too valuable. Clay is cheap, but so many folks reclaim. Am I wrong?
Right.
Reclaim. You've had some struggles with reclaim. We've talked about it on this before. I mean, how much reclaim did you have to get rid of out of the studio when you left?
Oh, much. Reclaim. Oh, so many buckets of clay.
Hundreds of pounds of reclaim.
Probably 1,000. Easy.
Oh my
Easy. God. Like,
you also were a studio, so you had members and they came, and that was probably what, 30 people that contributed to that, or 20 people maybe.
Yeah. So I mean, there was a lot, but I couldn't keep up with the reclaim because my Peter Pugger wasn't big enough, and I just had a big water trough of clay in the back, full of clay, and then I had 2 of those I think they're like 30-gallon totes, the black and yellow ones. I had 2 of those full, and then I had of just clay, not water clay, just clay. The big water trough was full of water and clay. And then I had probably 6 5-gallon buckets of dry clay, and then, or like not dry, but like wet dry. And then I had probably 4 more buckets of dry scraps. No,
that's
more
out
than
of control. That's
out of
ridiculous.
fucking control. And that was me like keeping up with it.
Well, I
Like
mean,
there was
to keep
more.
up with that clay, you would have to have somebody that's an assistant that continually reclaims probably 500
Yeah.
pounds of clay a week, or like 300
Yeah.
pounds of clay a week to actually do
I
what
mean,
you need
that's
to
what
do.
Bradley does, and we still can't like even empty the buckets. Like he reclaims probably 1,000 pounds a week. So,
Jeez.
but maybe more actually. But yeah,
So you
and
are
then
reclaiming.
I was reclaiming, and so in that particular situation, had I not reclaimed, I would have had to throw everything away. So I think that it actually would have cost me more to throw it away than to reclaim it, honestly.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like,
Is it because
I,
the waste that students produce is much
yeah.
higher than your own work?
Yeah, I mean, like, my waste is very little.
Right.
So little. Like, the waste that I have in my personal studio right now is maybe a quarter full of a 5-gallon bucket, and 3 mugs of those are the ones that you threw. That
Oh,
I threw away.
yeah, you just throw in there.
But, yeah. I think that it completely depends on your situation. If you're in a big studio space, you have to reclaim. Like, if you
What do you mean, a
don't,
community studio?
a community studio and or well, if you're in a community studio where everybody takes care of their own shit, like, they don't put any clay down anywhere, there's no like communal slosh bucket or anything like that, then
I would say
since
a lot of
people
them
are,
probably do, though.
yeah, I mean, there's very few that are very like you take care of your own thing, but yeah, in like a community studio, I think you'd have to, because like just it would be way too much. I mean, it took me 4 weeks, no, way more than that. It took me like 10 weeks of me like sneaking out to the dumpsters and throwing away buckets of clay on Tuesday nights before the trash came. And we would just throw them in the dumpsters next door. I mean, like, I had permission to throw them in, you know, but like, that's so much. Like,
Yeah.
and so, but obviously, taking care of um,
You had
your
many
clay, like,
priorities there
yeah,
that, reclaim was very bottom of the list kind of task.
right. But taking care of your stuff personally, it's a lot more manageable. Like, okay, talk about your reclaim situation.
My reclaim, I try to keep no more than 5 gallons of each color of clay at a time.
Okay.
I am reclaiming that 5 gallons. I'm not going over. I'm not getting another bucket. I'm not, you know, doing anything like that. I pretty much have a similar reclaim situation as you do. Not now because you have even less, but folks out there that know me, I don't trim a lot of stuff, so I'm not getting a lot of thin ribbons of clay that are trimmed everywhere. And but if I do trim, I'll let those dry completely to bone dry. Usually I'll leave them in the splash pan. I'll do
Mm-hmm.
like all of my trimming, and then I'll not throw anything in that clay until that clay in the splash pan is completely dry.
Yeah.
And then I'll dump the splash pan into my 5 gallon bucket that already has moisture in it. So usually it'll be, if it's completely dry, I'll just dump a bunch of dry stuff into that 5 gallon bucket until I have half of it full or something like that. And then I'll submerge it all in water so that it's all the same
Mm-hmm.
state. And how I keep the dry stuff, I don't just keep everything in the splash pan all the time. I'll usually dump it into this. I have these like storage drawers that are like the plastic ones that you would get from, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, the whatever that you would like have at
Yeah.
college with storage drawers.
Yeah.
So I'll usually like throw a bunch of dry pieces in those, like dry trimmings, and then when it's enough, I'll make sure it's all dry and then dump it into the bucket if there's already stuff in the bucket. So um, that keeps it manageable so that when it gets almost full or close to full, it'll be ready to be mixed up with a paint mixer on a drill and just stir it all up so that it's a good consistency. It's all like intermingled, and then I can dump it out onto my plaster bats. So I have the like mold of the bottom of a Rubbermaid like uh, you know, damp box.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I use to reclaim the clay on. So I try to do that when the bucket is close to full, or I can reclaim like probably 4 times out of that bucket before it's empty. Like
Reclaiming out
that.
of a 5-gallon bucket is so easy.
Yeah, it's
So
nothing
easy.
because you just dump the clay out and it's right next to your bat, your like plaster bat. So you just scoop it all out or dump it out and just have a thick, like 2 inches of clay
Yeah.
slop on that plaster bat, and you could reclaim it in like 3 to 4 days, and
Yeah.
that's gonna produce like 8 pounds, I would say,
Yeah.
typically,
Totally.
and that's a good amount. So I feel like that's manageable. It's not unruly, and then when I throw, I have the water bucket, but I also keep a slop bucket on the wheel. So each wheel has their own slop bucket. I guess you consider that more than a 5 gallon of reclaim if you want to consider that slop bucket reclaim too. But I throw
We'll give you a pass.
whatever I'm throwing with, I'll put it in that slop bucket, and then I'll usually dump that bucket into the 5 gallon bucket before I like reclaim it,
Yeah.
so that I get some dry trimmings in there intermixed with the slop trimmings from the wheel, so that I've got some like leather hard or really wet slop, and then some fine parkled clay intermingled together when I
Yeah.
stir it. So
I think that so you use plaster, I use cement board. And I switched from plaster to cement a while ago. And I really like the transition. Just because it's a lot easier to scrape up and I've
Mhm.
always been like kind of like
What do you
scared of the
scrape? Are you
plaster.
scraping to clean it, or you are?
Yeah, like to clean or like, get, because I never, mine's never in like a really neat. So
I feel like
when
you're
I
flipping it too
did,
soon if you have to scrape it up, though. I just let it sit longer. If I can't flip it over without it coming apart, then it's still too wet.
Ryan.
I want mine to like shrink off of the plaster. I don't know how it works with cement board. I've only done the cement board once, but
It
it
does
didn't shrink
come
and
up.
like pop up as easily.
It does come up, but like I use one of the dough scrapers just to pop it up.
Hmm.
Anyway, what I was saying is that I really enjoyed the cement board, mostly because it's a bigger surface area and it's not as fragile. But yeah, and I didn't feel like I was ever gonna get plaster or anything inside of that. But also I have to add the app. I have to add this because I forgot this part. After all the stuff that I just described to you, um, after dumping reclaim into trash cans for like 10 weeks, I still had 14 5-gallon buckets that we took to a friend's property and dumped. Okay, moving on.
Oh my gosh. I don't even want to think about transporting that like in a car. Like you do not want to be doing that.
It was terrible. Um, okay, so yeah, I mean, like the way that I would do it is I haven't done it in small batches anymore, but the way I would do it with the slosh bucket is I would take the majority of the clay in the bottom of the water bucket that, you're like combining all the clay into, and then just transfer it to the cement board and dump the 5 gallons out and just leave it there for a day until it starts cracking, and then you flip it and
Hmm.
wedge it. And I like it super wet, and so that was the point of like having to scrape it up.
I gotcha.
So I'm
Yeah, I
I'm
try to
more
get
of a
mine to a clay bag consistency.
yeah, I'm more of a soft clay person. But I think that the question specifically from Lindy is like, is it worth it? Like I'm gonna describe Lindy's studio. Um Lindy's studio is like a 10 by 10 room. And that's like everything. It's like the
Real
glazing.
estate is
The
key
real
in that.
estate is key here. And she lives in England, so it's like they don't have a ton of space, right? Or, and so like she's done a ton of work just to get organization going, which by the way, it looks great. Um, and so in her situation, reclaiming seems absolutely inappropriate, I think, you know?
What about her forms? Is she wheel throwing everything?
She's throwing. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like if you were like hand building, you're gonna have more reclaim, right? I mean, you're gonna be cutting
Hmm.
pieces off. You're gonna be,
Yeah.
having clay in different stages of dryness that can't be intermingled together, and like I feel like
Yeah.
you need to reclaim that, right?
Yeah.
Or you should. I feel like you're gonna have
Usually
more
you can get
loss in
away
there.
with yeah, usually you can get away with a lot less waste hand building just because when you cut it off, like if you cut it off wet, you can put it in the bag and then wedge it back up.
Hmm.
But you can only do that so many times. But yeah, I do feel like in a small space, in a small like moment, reclaiming doesn't really seem all that important, nor does it. I mean, clay is cheap. We were talking about how like though it is different priced. Like the clay in Washington is half the price of the clay here for me. You know, it was a big jump. It would be
Are
like a
you were
hundred.
you buying the same amount of clay there as you are here though? I feel like you're buying way less clay.
No, even at the $2,000 price, it's twice.
Twice the price. Wow.
Yeah,
So what
yeah.
were you paying for 2,000 pounds there?
I think I would only usually get like 1,000 pounds, but it was the 2,000 pound price because I was part of a club. Um, and I think I paid like $300 for 2,000 pounds, and I just paid
What?
$70 for 100 pounds.
$300 for 2,000 pounds?
Oh, sorry, for 1,000 pounds. Okay, I'm sorry, for 1,000 pounds at the 200 price, 2,000 pound price.
Okay, I gotcha.
Let me look.
Yeah, mine on average for 1,000 pounds is probably about $425. That's at the 1,000 pound price. 400
Yeah,
to 425, I think, is about what I'm paying. So,
yeah.
and you were
So,
kind of commenting on that about the clay difference. You were getting it from Tacoma Clay Art Center with their clay bodies, right? And then now you're getting Kentucky Mud Works clay.
yeah. I mean, yeah, and it depends, right? Because like, you know, they're selling aardvark clay for 68 cents, but they're selling their, let's see, um, dun 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 dun. So like their clay from their actual the stuff that they make is 44 cents.
44 cents a pound, so you're getting 50 pounds a box. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so like a 25-pound bag is $11. And then at Kentucky Mud Works,
That sounds pretty reasonable
um,
though. $22 for a box at the discounted price.
right,
That sounds
yes.
about like what I get for my discount.
Well, I was getting like let's see, I'm getting fucking A,
You must have
where's
been getting
the
it cheaper than that. You must have got it for like $20
Dark Star is 82 cents versus 44.
at the same discount price.
Like this, it's just like a bag. A
Just a
bag
bag.
is 82 cents, and a bag at Tacoma is 44 cents. Now, if you get
That's probably their homegrown clay versus. We were talking about this earlier. Is it how many? How many customers are they selling that clay to? How many pounds of that clay are they selling? Kentucky Mudworks is spread nationwide.
so,
I don't
yeah,
know how
I
many
know
distributors and stuff.
the 1,000 pound price is 35 cents. The 2,000 pound price is 33 cents. And for Kentucky Mudworks, okay, we'll get this is like a basic stoneware.
Iceman is a white stoneware if you want a
Okay,
comparable.
so Iceman is 67 cents. 67 cents for 25 pounds, and then for 1,000 pounds, it's 47 cents. So 47 versus 35. That's 10 cents more. And I mean, like, that adds up,
It
you
does.
know? It adds up. So it's just Kentucky Mud Works for me is a bit of a like, whoa, that's a lot of money.
But
But
was
in the
the but are you having troubles? Is there any issues with that clay? Are there things that you like about that clay that are different than what you had in the other clay?
That's not fair. So
That's not fair. That's part of what
that's
you're
not
paying for. You
fair.
get what you pay for.
No, because like their clay was fucking fantastic until like the last month. So,
Okay, so on average.
on average, it was great. Um, but it was also porcelain as opposed to, a stoneware. But but what I'm saying is it's different in different areas how much the clay costs, but also at the base clay is very cheap. Like 67 cents a pound. You're making a mug that's a pound. That's a 67-cent mug,
Yes.
you know. So, yes,
And
that is
you could
very cheap.
factor that in with, hey, I'm not going to reclaim clay. I know that there's going to be a factor of waste in here.
Yeah.
So you account for that. Your time is worth a certain amount of time for the reclaiming, and all that can factor into what you price your stuff at if you want to get that granular, or you just say, whatever, I'm going to need to buy more clay than somebody who reclaims.
Yeah. So, like, also, so, okay. Here's the question. Like, I haven't reclaimed anything yet because I definitely don't have enough. But when I have enough, will I reclaim? I'm gonna go with probably not.
I don't think you
I'm
would
gonna,
because of the forms that you're making are very finely refined.
yeah,
And
and
you're
like,
not making something that you could use reclaim that has some inefficiencies in the clay body
right.
that you
Yeah,
can make with that. Unless you start making some small, like some of those small saucers or something that are,
yeah.
you know, that are
But like,
smaller that you can use it for. But, I can use my reclaim in that fashion
totally,
and it works for
totally.
me.
But like, also just looking at it, and even if I was making just regular forms, and I wasn't making a ton of things, which I'm not, um, I would look at that bucket and I'd say, that's going to take me 2.5 days to finish. And it's going to be heavy and I'm going to be fucking messy. Or I could put it on a cart, walk to the elevator, go down the elevator, walk outside, and put it in the dumpster. I'm going to choose the dumpster every single fucking time.
You're to the fuck it stage. You've already been through that. And you're like, oh, we're not going down that path.
Yeah. The one thing that I will say about like, so we reclaim at our studio, but I think the perspective of never throwing away clay is really a tough situation. Because like there's some clay in some studios that has been there like it's dusty. Like it's dry. It's like dry logs or whatever, or dry like, or like it's in the bag and literally like you could build a house with it because it's so hard. Like throw it the fuck away.
I'm sure there's been questions on like clay buddies where somebody's like, I've got this block that had a hole in it and it's been in my storage and how do I reconstitute this? Throw it away.
I throw it away. Like um, I know. I think I'm like the only one that comments just throw it away.
It's like,
Oh.
is that $12 or $15 that you pay for that bag of clay worth it? Worth your effort?
Yeah, like I want to be
Plus,
paid at least.
how good is that clay actually going to be by the time you reconstitute it? Is it going to be as
Right.
good as a fresh bag of clay? Doubt it.
Right. Like I want to get paid at least $20 for like the job that a 12-year-old could do. Okay? That's the how much I want to get want to get paid. and, and I'm not getting paid $20. Like it's going to take me a lot
Yeah.
longer than an hour
Yeah,
of
I've
work.
just obscured that time sunken effort by spanning it out over months of, you know,
Yeah.
reclaiming, and you get it to a point where you just do it little by little, and then by the
Yeah.
time it's full, you let time do its job of like soaking all the dry materials in water and
Totally.
let time do what it needs to do, and then you mix it up and you dump it out. It's little bitty effort over time.
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
1,000 pounds of clay that you have to reclaim. That's
Right.
hours of
Yeah,
effort.
once you get the system down, it's great. It works great. And what I would also suggest is if you are overwhelmed with your clay capacity situation currently and you're listening to this, what I would suggest is throw it all away and start from scratch. don't try to overwhelm yourself by reclaiming all of that. Like, get down to a manageable amount and then start from there, because then it will be a lot easier to consistently, you know, get to that point where it's, what you're doing is just every day, little by little.
Yep.
But if you are working out of a 10 by 10 flat, throw it away.
What about, I just saw a post today actually that was somebody that was using a hammer to crush up the pieces. That's overkill. You don't need to do that. If there's pieces that are solid, not like bricks solid, but like if it's a mug that you poked a hole in the bottom, like just leave it, set it out, let it dry completely, all the way
Just
bone
throw
dry,
it in.
and then
Yeah.
just put it in water and it'll disintegrate into all the particles.
So
You don't
talk
have to
about,
crush all of it up.
yeah, so tell us what will happen if you don't let it dry completely versus drying completely.
If you have it leather hard, the water cannot be absorbed into it because it's like a sponge that's already got a bunch of water into it. It can't suck any water in to like break the particles down
Mm-hmm.
into a fine
Slip.
like slip. If it's completely dry, it's like a really dry sponge that's ready to absorb all of the water. All the water gets in there and then it just disintegrates.
Yep. Totally.
You could do a
Oh,
test. Just get like a little bowl with some water in it, get like a dry clay trimming, and then get like a leather hard piece of a handle or something and like put it in water and just look at it after 5 minutes. Like you'll see
yeah.
that the bone dry piece is all the way down into
When
bits.
you have your bone dry pieces, are you putting the bone dry into the water, or are you putting water into the bone dry?
Usually, if the bucket only has dry stuff in it, I'll just put a bunch of dry stuff in there. And then the best thing to do is to probably add it to the water. Just
Okay.
like if you're making glaze, you'll want to put the glaze to the water versus the water on top of the dry material.
Mm-hmm.
But I've done it both ways because you're still going to mix it up.
Yeah.
I mean, usually you're just going to let it sit there for days and let
Yeah.
it like intermingle. I'm not like dumping all the water in there, stirring it up, stirring it up, stirring it up. Like just let it sit, let the water
Yeah.
absorb, do its job, let
Mm-hmm.
time do what it needs to do, and then get back to it in a day or so. You can pour off some of the water on top if
And
you
if
want
you
to.
wanted to be more manageable, you could do it in like gallon batches. That would be really easy too.
Yeah,
A gallon a day keeps the reclaim array away.
nice.
We need to make a button
just
that
keep a
says that.
just keep a gallon. Yeah, I mean the bucket that's on top of my wheel for my red clay, the speckled clay, is basically a gallon bucket. That's what
Mm-hmm.
I like throw my slop into as I'm throwing.
Yeah.
So like if I were to fill that up, it's kind of weird like putting trimmings in that because they're all the way dry and your throwing stuff is usually wet. And I'll like cover that bucket with a bat or something overnight so that it doesn't dry from the top down because then you'll get some like really dry bits on the surface
Mm-hmm.
and the deeper stuff is like wet. So I'll always cover that up every day just to make sure it doesn't dry out.
Yeah.
Because then you'd be
I
putting
also,
dry bits in with the wet bits and it's kind of like messy. But
yeah. We didn't really talk about pug mills at all, but I'm gonna go on a general statement and say that if you have a pug mill, you're reclaiming clay, so we're not gonna talk about it because you're already doing it. like,
do you think a pug mill is necessary for like
no.
a single person studio?
I mean, unless you're throwing as much as I used to throw, no. Like
Because
if
I
you're
would
throwing,
assume you need a certain amount of clay for it to be worth it to pug, right?
yeah, but I mean, like look at like Alon Pottery, Leanne. She doesn't have a pug mill. She doesn't mess up though. You know, I don't mess up, and I won't need it. Like Dusty has a pug mill though. Dusty, the my studio mate, has a pug mill, but he has it because he likes really soft clay, and so he pugs his clay super soft. But I think that if you are proficient enough, you don't need a pug mill. However, it's really handy. It can be super like
I could see that as a good tool just for if you want to standardize your weighing out of the clay and everything.
yeah,
Like I could
like
see that being a really efficient method.
I would buy a pug mill for weighing out clay way before I would buy a pug mill for reclaiming it, which sounds completely flipped, but that's the case, really, for me at least.
Because it's a standard dimension, and you know
Yeah.
all the airs out of it, so you know a
Well,
piece of
yeah,
clay is this amount of weight.
and the clay that comes in the bags are really fucking hard. So throwing the clay into the pug mill and adding a half a cup of water, you know, that helps it a lot, so that's another aspect, right? It's like power wedging that clay and getting it soft so that you can actually throw it without killing your hands. Like that's why I feel like pug mills are really valuable. Not as much for reclaiming.
Yeah, I mean,
A mixture would be super valuable for reclaiming,
a
I feel
mixture,
like.
a
A mixer.
mixer. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, any studio that's like a community studio, you kind of have to have a pug mill, though. Like, you could not have your community studio without a pug mill, right? When you had it,
No.
like, would that have been manageable? No.
No.
Yeah, like in high school, all the kids are done for the day. You like throw all your slop and stuff like in the pug mill.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I don't think you can have a community studio without. I mean, like you can. You can have a community studio without a pug mill, but I'm sorry.
You're
Like
gonna spend way more money and time.
that's those are the people that throw away clay. Or
Yeah.
like their students are individually responsible for reclaiming their own clay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, fuck that.
I feel like
Uh,
your general feedback for people, don't feel bad about throwing clay away if you have to. If it's more of a if it's like bringing you down that you always see this bucket of clay that's reclaimed.
oh my god, your mental health is so much more important than clay in the garbage.
Or
Like
clay in the yard.
or clay in the yard or clay in the forest. If you could get anything out of this podcast for the life of the podcast, your mental health is so much more than saving a piece of dry clay. Because I mean, like, I every time I walked into my studio, I was like, oh my god, I can't handle this.
You walk by it every day and you're like,
It was like
oh
it was
no.
like it was like when you get depressed and you don't wash any of the dishes in your sink and then they pile up and then they get onto the counter and then they pile on the counter and then all you do every day when you walk by the kitchen is just stare at that kitchen sink and you're like, fuck. Like that's the only way I can make it relatable. It's like, why? And it just feels like this task that is so big that you can't ever do. And then once it's gone, it's like, why didn't I do that sooner? Like,
I have something like that, but it's digital that's comparable.
what?
Well, you know how my emails, if I don't get to them, I'll mark them as unread.
Yes.
So I have continually, like, on average, like 4 to 6 emails that are always unread they need my attention and they need me to act on them, or else if I mark them as read, I'll forget about them and they'll never be done ever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I keep them in the backlog of like, oh, I need to get to that. I need to get to that. I need to get to that. And I just see it every day when I look at my email. And that number, that bubble is like always there.
God, it's so annoying. And like with those things, I feel like with those things and the dishes, it's like once you do them, you're like, God, that was so easy. But it's the opposite with reclaim. It's like that wasn't easy.
Hours
Like,
were spent. You're dirty. You're like, what else could I have done that was much more valuable than this?
yeah,
What did I get out of this in the end? Was the
it's
value
never
spent
easy.
well?
Like you could pay somebody to do it for you, but then if you're paying them $12 an hour or $15 an hour or $20 an hour if you're amazing, you might as well just throw it away. I mean, one could argue that if you reclaimed it, you could make more stuff and make money off of those pieces, but it's a
Yeah.
revolving
I mean,
cycle.
like a lot of bread and butter pieces are from that clay. I mean, I
Yeah.
make a lot of the shot glass. I make almost not now because I use a lot of new clay for the shot glasses, but I've used a lot of reclaim for my shot glasses. I've used a lot
Yeah.
of reclaim for my spoon rests.
Yeah.
Those are easy items that are half a pound or less, and I'm not worried about the inconsistency of the reclaim. I'm not going to throw a mug with it
Right.
or something bigger than a pound because it's not going to be as consistent as right out of the bag. So,
Oh, also another option, a fun option for the end because we're running out of time. Um, what you can do with reclaim, which is really fun, which is not pottery related, is that you can make a pizza oven with it. So if you do have a bunch of it, there's like tutorials and like you just build like a little sand dome and then you pack the clay around it and then you build a fire inside the little dome after you dig out all the sand and you like build a fire inside the dome and then you've cooked the clay.
ah, is that why they? Well, I think they coat. I was thinking some of those kilns that they coat in clay, or maybe that's cement,
Mm,
like the atmospheric kilns, like soda kilns or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
whatnot. Maybe that's cement mostly.
Mm. But yeah, I mean, like you'd have to look up a tutorial or whatever. But I've had people take clay from me to make pizza ovens. So
Nice. That sounds
that's a
cool.
super cheap pizza oven, and how fun! You can just do it in your backyard, or do it in the kiln yard. You know, make pizzas while you're firing a kiln. Yeah,
There you go. All right.
there we go.
That's reclaim talk for you.
So, Lindy, no, it's not worth it. That's our final answer, or mine. I don't know. What do you think?
I think based on 10 by 10 space, it's probably not worth the real estate in your studio. But if you can, hey, if you can reclaim with a 1 gallon bucket sitting on top of your wheel, maybe that's a small
Maybe
amount
that's
that's
worth
worth
it.
it.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
I wouldn't
All
go
right.
out and like make a plaster bat and do all this extra stuff unless you have a space for it. But I mean, you could just use a regular bat. Um,
Some people use pillowcases too. Pour it in
yeah,
a pillowcase and let it hang. That would be very doable with a 1 gallon bucket.
yeah. Fill a pillowcase and hang it outside. Let it kind
Yeah.
of air dry from the all
Mm-hmm.
around it. Yep.
Yeah. There we go. Cool.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Sweet. Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Nice.
You keep thinking these aren't going to be long enough, and I keep thinking they're not going to be short
38
enough.
minutes. I mean, we could shorten them if we wanted to, but we went over a lot of it with the pugging too. I think that was a good one to put in there.
Yeah.
I feel like reclaim is such a big topic too that people can.
We could probably do a whole episode on reclaim, honestly.
I mean, that was 38 minutes. I don't know that we could hit an hour
If
and a half
we
on reclaim.
if we did a like a tabletop discussion with like 4 different people that have completely different scenarios on reclaim, that would be a lot of fun. Just like start yelling at each other. Be like, "No! This is the way you should do it." Like I'm going to turn off the recording.